we never regret being deaf. If Jesus comes again, we are going to ask Jesus, please don't make us hearing. We are just happy the way we are. But also there's a worry. Deaf people always are afraid. People as deaf people, we encourage also deaf people to be confident and also fight for their right, fight for their voice. Even the government can understand us and we can achieve better fruits.
Hi viewers, welcome so much to this podcast, episode 3. So, we have something new. We want to create this month as a Deaf Awareness Month. And we'll have a wonderful conversation. I hope you'll have interest to listen to it. So today's podcast is about creating awareness about disability and aspirations, and also removing the barriers. So we have a guest with me. Let him introduce ourselves. Please introduce ourselves.
Thank you, Sheilah. My name is Collins Ogendi, and my sign name is this. Okay, this is reason being. I know the deaf community. The deaf community must have a sign name, and this is my sign name. And this sign name is not the same. Not everyone calls me by this sign name. Where am I from? I'm from Kiambu County, and I'm also pleased to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Wow, that's so wonderful. I'm very happy to be your host today, and my name is Sheilah, and this is my sign name. So we want to dip into the conversation, but first remember to comment, subscribe, and share with other people if you care about the inclusion. So now, Collins, we have come to talk about deaf awareness creation. What does it mean? So now I want to ask you, Collins, how do you feel about this Deaf Awareness Month?
Okay. Now, thank you very much for your question. It's a very good question. And in this month of deaf awareness, it always happens annually, So annually, the Deaf Awareness Month, what is it for? Okay, for example, for the blind, they have their day for awareness. For those who have different disabilities, they have their days. And they have different dates in the year. The year is just the same, but the months are different. Okay, the Deaf Awareness Month, why? It's helping also the community and also people in Kenya, those people who are not in recognition or in understanding of the deaf community, for example, the challenges, the discrimination, that this month of September is when we are expressing ourselves. But now, a long time ago, you can start expressing yourself and say, while I was growing up, I was oppressed in this way, or when I was going to school, how I became deaf, I was discriminated at this certain time, the hearing were going to school, but I was not. So this month is for us to celebrate our history. Not only our history, but we are also advocating us and asking the government that we can remove this discrimination and remove these problems that we are having. That is what we are celebrating every year. It's just the same way like Christmas. You see, Jesus was born, right, in the month of December. So we are celebrating the birth or the born of Jesus, Jesus being born, and in many years. So the same way, we are also proud of our month, this month of September. Thank you.
Wow, this special thing. On September, it's a special month for the deaf. Wow, that's amazing. And if you need to know more about the deaf, on how they do their thing, so join this media and you will learn more. So now in our communities, we have deaf in our societies, and they have different level of deafness. And I know their tribe are the same. So you personally as Collins, can you explain to us or explain to our people the types of deaf? and also explain the variations in it.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you very much for the nice question. So many, okay, the many people that you're having that we call a community, or let's say the whole people who we have, they don't believe in the same, and we don't believe that everyone is the same, has the same level. For me, I was born originally like deaf, for example, and the first language that I acquired is sign language. But maybe if maybe you got it via sports or many other avenues, we have many. But now, by the time I was being born, then I grew up. Then I became deaf, maybe at the age of 6. Then I decided to go to university. That is another way or another level of deafness. We have also other deaf who they can be able to hear, but not 100%. All right? They're almost getting that ability to hear. But when someone is a bit far distance, they're not able to hear. Also, we have other deaf people who can sign and they can talk, right? They can talk verbally. But people ask themselves, why are these people like able, to talk? But maybe they became deaf after maybe their high school or university. But for those who are born deaf, maybe some will start accusing them that they have broken languages or they're making voices which even they don't understand. So we have different categories of deaf. And the attitude, according to these people who I was just describing, are different. For example, there are those deaf who purely use KSL, that is Kenya Sign Language. And for those deaf people, they enjoy whenever someone is doing that pure Kenya Sign Language, right? And also, for that person who acquired deafness at a later age, maybe after university, they start being, signing English, like you, for example, let's say. Then, someone who becomes deaf at a later age, and for that person who is born originally deaf, whenever this person signs English, the KSL deaf person will see it as boring. And the reason as to why we are celebrating this month is for those who became deaf at a later age, or maybe even at the university level, whenever they want to join the community and become a deaf member, they also need to accept, the KSL culture. If you don't have that, if you don't know the KSL, we always feel like you're not part of the deaf community. So now, what we see right here is that we have, variance in deafness. And even in the deaf community, you can get to understand. And maybe you can, next time, try to define and balance.
Okay. This is very educative. Wow. So now let us recognize, for example, from what we have discussed about different types of deaf. So the deaf have the one tribe. So how are they coming to have one society and one community?
Okay, so you want to see, okay, in the deaf, you want to know like how we join and make a community.
How they come up to one society. For example, you see the hearing people have their own society. So, and how can we make these deaf people inclusive?
Okay, if you want to come and join the deaf community, you need to first socialize and always be with them. Number one, you need to first accept the deaf culture. That is the first thing. The deaf culture, how the deaf do their things, how they behave, you must accept that. If you feel like you're not in agreement with this, you feel like it's boring, I'm telling you, it's hard for you even to integrate with the deaf. It will now become more challenging. But for those hearing who want to integrate and join the deaf community, we, the deaf, are always tired of writing. Communication via writing, always writing and writing, we're really tired. So, we need you to also learn Kenyan Sign Language. Learn Kenyan Sign Language and also integrate with us. So, also in the deaf community, we have, interpreters, right? Who are integrated, who can sign very well. But in the villages, the mother and father, are they integrated? No. Whenever a deaf person wants to ask something, will they ask their parents? No. Can they ask their brothers? No, because they don't have that language. So there's loneliness. By the time that those deaf people come outside the society, they interact with the interpreters, they feel good because this is our language that we're using. But now, what is the key thing that we're using? We need to socialize, and that is the first thing that you need to do. That is the first action before you do anything if you want to integrate.
That's very awesome. So I've now understand about it, and also I've learned more. So I believe the integration in the community for the deaf, some things which are very important is needed. First one is to accept, and also accept to be included in this deaf community. So as we are celebrating this deaf month, what we are saying is no human right without sign language. So you first accept the deaf people, and that's a first priority in deaf community. And the best thing they need is for you to know sign language. So you have to learn sign language as any sign language. As we have seen in most government, they have approved it as the third language in Kenya. So now, Collins, again, I want to ask you, how do you feel or as a deaf person, what impact do you bring in the community and also in Kenya and also in the world? Please explain to us. For example, how did you become deaf, and how was your development since you were young until you have this successful life, so that other people who are our viewers can learn more and you became their role model. I believe it's not that long.
Okay, thank you very much again. Okay, me personally, I was truly born hearing, right? Then later on, I became deaf. I was not, I'm not 100% sure. But later on, before I became deaf, I was hearing. I had that ability to hear. So I was attending a hearing school that is in Kisumu County. Then later on, we were, sharing communication via my parents verbally. Then later on, when I was becoming deaf, I had something like malaria. Now, my mother always shouted my name, Collins, Collins, but I was not in a position to hear. So my mother usually reported me to my father that this son is very ignorant, and I was going through thorough canes because it was really rude. That is how they were seeing me, right? So my father was disciplining me for me to become a very good person. So he did not want me to get into bad vices. So my father now usually told me, like, are you not hearing what your mother is saying? But now they understood that there's something which is not right. So they took me to hospital. Then they found that I was deaf. Then they regretted what they were doing. Later on, I was taken to a deaf school, okay? Then in the deaf school, I really felt bored. There's no, I did not know how to sign. Like, I see people signing left, right, and center. And I was really, I was really stressed that I don't know how to sign. But I got a good friend who taught me sign language. And after interacting, then I developed, I developed a language. Then from there, I decided to study hard. But I felt, a bit painful in my heart, because the teacher was zero-minded when it comes to sign language. The teacher was being brought from TSC, but without the knowledge of signing. So even my IQ when it comes to grasping things, English, I could not write very well. I was at class 8, but I could not be in a position to write my name very well. Then later on, when I improved, even those teachers who were on attachment who had the language, but still my English was not good. The time I finished school, anytime I was really pursuant in getting to know English more. So I got a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine. He taught me. That is how now I got how to know to write good English. Then now, in my life, I also need to advocate and lobby the world, please, whoever or whatever who wants to say or come up with a deaf organization, a person who, please, a person who wants to communicate, find someone who signs very well. You know, if I could receive a teacher or if I could get someone who could sign, it could be great. And that is what I'm advocating for other people to get, someone who can sign very well. Even I, Collins, I can see whoever, if I get an opportunity and see someone being oppressed, I'm always backing at them. But I'm really happy that when KSL will become a bill, it will be something great, and that will be a joy. We want even doctors who know sign language. And the communication barrier, which we always experience, for sure, I always advocate that we can remove these barriers. So what am I advocating? Let people learn sign language. This is a must for people. Maybe a vision or a dream that we are going to get a president who knows how to sign, who can provide his speech via verbal and sign language. Not just a person who says, hi, 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 hey. We cannot do that. I want someone who can provide accessibility when it comes to communication. But also there's a worry. Deaf people always are afraid. You know, people as deaf people. We encourage also deaf people to be confident and also fight for their right, fight for their voice. Even the government can understand us and we can achieve better fruits.
Wow, wow, wow. This is a very impactful story. And I hope through this advocacy for sign language, I hope all sectors will accept. I'm appealing to our president, President Ruta, please. So now, as we move on, now you are an advocate, and you are trying to you are advocating for the deaf. So how do you feel to promote the deaf, and what's your expectation about it?
Okay, now on that area, let me give out my points. I want to advocate for development or improvement of the deaf community. As you know very well, Ruto ratified through the National Council for Persons with Disability, there is a bill that he passed and said that all institutions must teach sign language, be it private, public. Thank you, President Ruto, for ratifying such a thing. But now, remember this. More of Kenyans or more institutes that we have in Kenya, that is, for example, KU, Meru University, Mombasa University, okay, all institutes that we have. Now, after that, we were happy that that they said sign language to be taught. But now, people who are being employed are hearing, okay, but whose language is this? Who acquires this as their mother tongue? It's the deaf. So what are we lobbying right now? In the universities, please, the hearing people should leave it for the deaf people to lead, then the hearing will follow. Because the hearing will teach the deaf to become, you know, signed English, like hi, I go, is, and the articles will all be there in that language, of which is not there. So we need to teach the original Kenyan sign language. Sometimes I feel bad. Those hearing people who teach sign language in those schools which we have, they always say, oh, in deaf culture, they love gossiping. Do you support that?
No.
Gossiping is something individual. That is something that that is linked to the behavior. All people have to gossip, right? Now, if you say like deaf culture loves sex, is that true? Deaf people love sex. That is something for everyone. We must remove such behaviors, such words that are being used. But now we need to teach the Kenyan Sign Language in its fullness. Teach how about the culture if we have a deaf person teaching that. But now, after teaching sign language, we always find a hearing person who tries to interact with the deaf people. Then we always correct that person. But now, this is always a challenge. But we should also wake up organizations, come together, let us work together. If you're lobbying for children in those schools, and I always see what you always advocate for in the schools for deaf children, and I applaud you for that. But now, if we get hearing people to teach sign language, we will lose around 2 million deaf people. Whenever they want to access jobs, whenever they want to write down something, instead of, signing. Sometimes we get like this variance in the level of, swiftness in writing English, right? But are we going to blame the deaf people for the low level of acquiring the education or English? No, we're going to blame the government. But now, for example, it's visual. You can say, this is a cup, show a cup or a picture of a cup and say, this is the sign. That is a better way of learning. So we advocated for deaf people to get job opportunities, get other opportunities also. So we are going to advocate this, and maybe you can achieve it in 3-4 years to come, and we can become better.
Wow. That's very impactful and very important motivation. So please, I beg you as government, learn from us what we have discussed here. And also whenever you develop accessibility for sign language, make sure also the 5% give them the job opportunity, that for employment. And that's our expectation going forward. That's very wonderful education, and I hope we'll learn more from you. So now I want you to talk to our viewers, tell our people in the different world, region, wherever they are, whether in government or anywhere, from what to expect and how it will impact. And also try to mentor them without fearing anything.
Okay, thank you. Let me go back to my viewers or the viewers. Hello, everyone. That is the community, the hearing community, the deaf, everyone in this world. You are my friends. Both deaf friends, parents, everyone. What's my sign name? This is me, Collins, and I'm deaf. All right? As you can see, I'm very smart. You can see Sheilah is very smart. The deaf people are not like a quote-unquote chokoras. We are able to eat, we can sleep, we can marry, we can drive, we can work. We all do things the same. We never regret being deaf. If Jesus comes again, we are going to ask Jesus, please don't make us hearing. We are just happy the way we are. Reason being, by the time we are going to sleep, you hearing people always suffer with the chaos or the sound of, the rain raining. But us, we are at peace. If you are at the road and they start hooting, you are not at peace, but we are at peace. Whenever the aeroplane passes, you are not at peace, we are at peace. But now, we're in the Deaf Awareness Month, right? If you don't know sign language, it's like you're nothing. But get to know the original sign language. Now, to parents, deaf parents, stop sidelining your children and keeping them at home, allowing the hearing students or hearing children to grow. Then when they start suffering, and now that deaf person who you're sidelining starts becoming rich, you now beg on that deaf person. No. When schools open, ensure that even this deaf child goes to school. And maybe in future, this deaf child of yours will get a mansionette, a car. That is where now you can go to beg for things with what you want. That's what I'm saying. But now, to the government. On the area of job opportunities when it comes to deaf, the government always, try to, give excuses of them not employing the deaf because of communication or what. We have never bowed down and prayed to God that God give us deafness. What do I mean? In these opportunities that you have in the government, please recognize the deaf. All right? Yes, the deaf use sign language to communicate. But if I get a job in the government, I can be able to interact with my staff little and little. And also my staff can also get in a position to understand basic of my signs. But now, what we have seen, in this Deaf Awareness Month, what do we mean? We celebrate our language. What we are asking, recently, Ruto already ratified, and now it has become a bill. There's a bill which has for disability which has been ratified. Now we are asking, we always talk about the 5% rule. Please give the deaf people, out of this 5%, give us 20% of this 5%. Opportunities. This is my mother tongue. I have never had any Luo language in my ear. All right? I've never had any Machakos or Kamba language. What is my language that I've gotten? Sign language. So when it comes to matters of teaching sign language, let the hearing be behind us, not in front of us, leading us. So thank you very much for listening to me. Hope we are going to coordinate and work in unity. And lastly, I'm going to ask the government, the organizations, the private schools, you want to implement the deaf projects, right? You want to know how it happens. Include the deaf. Don't sideline them. Then bring hearing people. Then start making things with interpreters without that deaf person. Please ensure that you bring a deaf person on the table. And that person will tell you all the challenges. And it's going to be easier even to improve your school. And it's going to be easier even to work with you. Don't sideline the deaf people. Also to the Kenyan people. We also remember the National Council for Persons with Disability. They came up with a bill. But on the area of sign language, we never saw the deaf people participating in it. We never saw the deaf people participating in this bill. Then later on, we are shocked that it was taken to the government and it passed all the stages until to the president. So if we want to implement anything about sign language and in the policy, include the deaf people. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for your time.
Wow. For sure, I've been educated today. And also as community and the society, I hope also you have learned something. As we are celebrating this month, as a deaf community, we have expressed our needs about the deaf society, whatever we have talked about, and you have expressed it. So today's topic was about, as you are aware, the topic of the Deaf Month is no human right without sign language. So if you don't know any sign language, you are nothing to the community.
Yes.
So today's podcast, we say that we are voicing for the voiceless and beyond education. As I celebrate this Deaf Awareness Month also, I hope that you have understood about our culture, and thank you so much for being with us in this episode, and I'm hoping that you have enjoyed it and you are ready for this episode 3. Give us your recommendation, your views, and also we want you to tell us how you understand and also what you want to learn more about the deaf, and also help us to create better status. And thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.